Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode from GuigLit, your channel for all things books, beards and beyond. Thank you once again for tuning in. Today we are looking at 10 quotes you need to know from Willie Russell's Blood Brothers. But as always, make sure that you are giving this video a like and a thumbs up. It really means an awful lot to me. I'm really appreciative for that. Also, share this video with your friends. Leave a comment below. Maybe there's some quotes that you know as well. We could build a big quotes train based off of that. Would be great. And also click the little bell icon so you get up to the minute updates from GuigLit. So we know how we use these videos by now if you've been tuning in, and we always take notes, we always test yourself, and we always repeat and repeat and repeat. Watch this video multiple times through. Okay, use this again and again, as it is an inexhaustible resource for all of your needs on the play. So what are the rules for today? Well, first rule is there are 5 quotes per act. I've tried to cover the entire play, okay, from beginning to end, just as a good student should. The quotes are deliberately as open as possible. So the aim is to give you quotes you can use on themes, quotes you can use on relationships, quotes you can use in a variety of different examination circumstances. On top of that, I've tried to keep the quotes as short as possible. Now, I will be honest with you folks, some of these quotes are longer than my sacred 6 to 8 word length I always recommend. However, in some places I've used ellipses just to chop them down. Now, this covers a wide range of characters and themes. I tried to give you quotes that you may not necessarily know or may not necessarily be aware of. I don't want to give you the same quotes that are always trotted out, okay? And in addition, remember, paraphrasing, getting words wrong is okay. If the spirit is right, if the message is mostly right, the examination board will award you this. So, first quote is from the very beginning of the play, and it's from the narrator. Judge for yourselves how she came to play this part. The narrator here is referring to Mrs. Johnstone, okay? And he's giving us this kind of open invitation to critique her. Notice how I've put out or keywords as judge for yourselves. It's talking to the audience, kind of breaking the fourth wall there for what is a play, and play this part. The play in a number of different examples is quite self-referential, okay? It kind of recognizes it's a play, kind of postmodern in that regard. Notice how the narrator becomes the milkman, then the gynecologist. It's deliberately tongue-in-cheek, as if it kind of bends the reality of the play itself. Really important points there for this first quote. Our second quote then goes over to Mrs. Johnstone. By the time I was 25, I looked like 42. Notice that verb there, looked. Mrs. Johnstone here is openly admitting how the restraints of being a mother, the restraints of a failed marriage and having multiple children, having to look after in a single parent family, has worn her out and tired her out as a result. This idea of her aging before her years. Kind of a foreshadowing there for Linda as well, I would say, just to be aware of. Our third quote is, I believe a child can become one's own, from Mrs. Lyons. I often tell my students how Mrs. Lyons at the beginning is quite a sympathetic figure. You know, she's alone in a massive house where her husband is no longer there. She has positive redeeming traits. However, too often I've seen students forget that, and it's understandable because it's only a short part of the play, and for the vast majority of the play, Mrs. Lyons comes across as paranoid or particularly negative and almost evil in her acts at the end. So don't forget this. Notice his words, believe and can. She has hope. She has hope, and she goes about it the wrong way, and she's ultimately doomed as a result. But remember that at the start, she is an overall kind of hopeful, optimistic character. Don't forget that. Quote 4 now, folks, is producing a penknife. Now, this is a stage direction. Don't forget, folks, stage directions are just as important as actual quotes. And this is a stage direction for Mickey. Now, why I've found this important is because with Mickey, he's 7 years old at this point, and he's producing a penknife. We see how Mickey is exposed to violence and exposed to these dangers and threats that a child ordinarily shouldn't, which is kind of reflective of the turbulent upbringing he has. How many 7-year-olds should be walking around with a penknife? Well, Mickey does. And it's because of this why I've selected this quote. It kind of shows Mickey's turbulent upbringing, but also his acclimatized nature towards sort of petty low-level violence in that regard. And our halfway point, our fifth quote is, Jennifer, Jennifer, how many times my work is here? This is from Mr. Lyons when she's having an argument with him about Edward running off playing with other children. Notice, first of all, he refers to her as Jennifer by her first name. It's a very blunt, very rude kind of way of talking to her, almost sort of aggressive. The exclamation mark there can reinforce that sense of shouting as well. We also see how he says, my work is here. There's really a theme in this play of absent fathers. Okay, Mickey and Edward's biological father is never in the play. He's ran off with another woman, as Mrs. Johnstone says in Act 1. Mr. Lyons is there in person, but he's not there in any emotional, nurturing sense for the child. And we see this here. We see his anger being taken out on his wife, but also the idea of my work is here. The pronoun my suggesting a kind of self-centered nature, but also that he is only concerned about what is within his own personal sphere of influence, and that the work has importance, a greater importance over the family. Now moving on to Act 2. First quote from Act 2 I've picked out is, yes, we're safe here, aren't we? From Mrs. Lyons. We see this paranoid sense of Mrs. Lyons developing now. They've moved so they can be further away from the Johnstones and Mickey and that negative influence. But we also see this idea that she's not convinced we're safe. She has to reinforce this, aren't we? You know, she sees her safety connected to Edward. We see it as a question as well. We see really that Mrs. Lyons' sense of security is very paper thin, very fragile overall. Quote 7 then is talk of Oxbridge from the teacher in Edward's school. Now, we see a massive difference between this quote and the following quote in the expectations of education. Oxbridge is the portmanteau, the combined word for Oxford and Cambridge, the UK's two greatest, most significant, most successful universities. And we see here how Edward is being talked up to go to one of these elite, prestigious academic institutions. Whereas in quote 8, we see, how the hell do you hope to get a job when you never listen? This is from Mickey's teacher. Notice how the expectations on education here are massively different for between Edward and Mickey. So whereas with Edward, the expectation of education is to go to university, to get a degree. With Mickey's education at kind of bog standard, average, comprehensive school, or a state school as it will be known, his expectation of education is to just get a job, to go out in the workforce, not to necessarily even get qualifications. So we see that their experiences of education shape and form them, and that's directly linked to class, Mickey being working class and Edward being middle class, and the opportunities afforded to them. Our penultimate quote for today is, it sounds dead funny swearing in that posh voice. That's from Mickey. When Mickey and Edward reunite, Mickey is older, Mickey has grown up, and Mickey's more aware of the world around him. Mickey notices that Edward is actually very different to him in ways he didn't as a child. In that posh voice there being the key words, he's finally realising that Edward's of a different class to him. Edward is not the same as him. He's not just the blood brother that Mickey originally had him down as being. And this kind of is the little first hint at a divide that becomes a gulf ultimately when we see their expectations in life change dramatically. And our final quote for now is, she's washed a million dishes, she's always making tea. This is the narrator commenting on Linda. A million dishes, always. We see Linda, who begins as a kind of tomboy character, emerge and develop into somebody who becomes a mother, has those sort of maternal instincts, but also becomes downtrodden by the expectations of becoming a mum. We see that she's actually someone who is instead tired and worn out by having to be not just a mother to the child they have, but also to Mickey in effect. She has to mother him, particularly when he leaves, when he returns from prison. So we see this idea of Linda just being tired and being having to change. So I provided you with 10 quotes today that show you a range and kind of different from the ones you'd ordinarily expect. I hope you've enjoyed that video. Thank you very much. Give this a thumbs up and a like. If this reaches enough likes and shares and enough views, then I'll do 10 more. Hopefully that'll be something that's really successful. Subscribe as well, really appreciate it, and hit that bell icon for more notifications. We are available on Twitter at GuigLit and on Instagram at GuigLit. For now though, take care, have a very great week, and until next time, all the very best. Bye bye.